What's good, YouTube? JDaisy here with the JDaisy Gaming Channel. Here with our coverage of E3 today, we had the Ubisoft and the AMD gaming show presentations. Sorry that this video will not have any actual gameplay or video, but I didn't have any stock footage that felt appropriate for talking about these two different conferences. But I also need to address that there was the Microsoft conference that I missed. It wasn't on my schedule of things that was going on, so I missed that. So we have some news regarding the Microsoft conference and, of course, Ubisoft and AMD. Tonight is also Sony, but Sony really doesn't bring that much to the table regarding me personally, so I really don't cover it. I will keep an eye on it, though, and see if there's anything that majorly catches my eye that I should cover, but probably won't. And then tomorrow is Nintendo, and Nintendo absolutely has nothing that'll interest me. Sony has a chance, but Nintendo has nothing. So I probably won't even do coverage of that. But that is neither here nor there right now. It is, right now we are talking about AMD and Ubisoft. But just like I did this morning when I did this one I'm a little more ahead of the cue ball. I am doing this about an hour after Ubisoft just finished, or half hour, due to editing things. But just like I did this morning when I recorded the EA and Bethesda one, I just want to take a moment of silence for the first responders and everyone involved in what's going on in Orlando right now, just knowing that they are in our thoughts. As I said this morning, I believe it was Fred Rogers, in fact I know it was Fred Rogers, who said something along the lines of, when tragedy strikes, we need to look for the helpers, and those men and women that run into the fray are the ones that definitely need our thoughts and minds and our support behind them. But moving swiftly on to the AMD gaming presentation. Admittedly, I was asleep when this started, but I got in maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes after it started, so I didn't catch the opening part. But they started off with gameplay of Dawn of War 3. Not really my type of game, but they showed some gameplay footage out for it. From there, they went on from the developers of Don't Starve. They had Oxygen Not Included, a similar looking and similar style to Don't Starve. That'll be coming out here soon. They didn't give a release date or anything. The creators of Ark came out and they talked about how they are going to continue mod support as they always have. That they are releasing. They just released a new map, and I believe it's either on that one or they're releasing another new map with redwood biomes. It looked very Ewok style. And they also are going to be releasing a new dinosaur called the Titansaurus or Titansar. It is massive. It was huge. It destroyed a small house with its foot. And they said that it will be a very interesting gameplay mechanic because you have to tame it in a different way than all the others. You can't use narco berries, and you can't just run up and hit it with a stick. There's a different gameplay mechanic to actually tame that. They also announced that there are 2 official mods. They were created by people out in the community, but they are now endorsed by Ark. One I didn't catch because their live stream actually cut out for a few minutes. Few seconds probably. And the other one was a mod where you are allowed to be like bugs and dinosaurs and things of that nature in the Ark universe. So that was very interesting to see them having quote-unquote official mods. They also announced a VR exclusive, or a VR game called Giant Cop. Looked kind of different, but it was VR. And every time I see VR, AMD must be partnered with Oculus because they were very Oculus heavy. But that was their VR thing. From there, they moved on to Mountain Blade 2, Bannerlord, which looked very good, very nice. They didn't give a release date for that either. They talked about a game called Lawbreakers coming out that looked very Overwatchy, that kind of style of shooter. Yahoo came out and did what's called Yahoo Express, showing off Twitch streams and things of that nature of gaming that way, and the big Twitch conferences and things of that nature. From there, of course, it's AMD's show, so they came out and talked about their new graphics card and a VR backpack brought to you by Alienware coming out. so that if you're using an Oculus Rift, you don't have all the cords everywhere. You have this backpack, I guess, which is interesting. Showed some serious Sam footage using the VR, but it wasn't very interesting, I didn't think, personally. They showed a new game called Vampire, which was very short and it wasn't that good at all. I think even the developers felt that as well. Showed off Killing Floor 2. Is going to be getting a free weekend this week. And its update went live right then and there. They're working with Oculus to bring an Oculus experience to Killing Floor. They showed off some super hot VR. Obsidian, the developing team at Obsidian, is working on a new horror game. I believe it was called Observed, like you observe something. I believe that's what it was called. They are also people are working on a new game called Drop Zone. It looked very MOBA RTS style. They said it was different, but it looked just like it. The people from Arma were there. Arma 3 Apex, a DLC, is going to be coming July 11th, 2016. It's been in development since last year. Bringing 13 new weapons, a jungle map. The solo campaign will have a 4-person co-op, new vehicles, and it looked very good. They showed some good gameplay footage of it. It looked very nice. The Turning Test, which I guess is a puzzle game. It looked very Portal. It's about a life on Europa and solving puzzles around that, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't very... It was a thing. That was also VR, of course. They showed off a new game called Overless, a driving survival game with a very weird art style, coming in June 13th. They announced Halo Wars 2, which will also be on PC. It's not just an Xbox exclusive. It will be on PC, coming February 21st, and a very quick snippet of gameplay. It looked very good. I'm very excited. I enjoyed the first Halo Wars a lot. The people that made Insurgency are also releasing a game called Day of Infamy. They didn't give it. It will be on Steam Early Access next month. It looked like the original Medal of Honor World War II style gameplay, with that Insurgency feel to it as far as graphics go. They announced a new game called Dual Universe. Showed some in-game footage. It's a space sim. It's claimed its a niche, if you will, is that you build your ships. You don't buy them like in No Man's Sky or Star Citizen. You build them, but the building style was very like scrap mechanic, where you just drag and click. But it's a one shared universe, and it's seamless from land to space. You can build bases. It's the same thing that every other space sim is doing. That comes out in 2017. Moving on, the Chivalry people will be doing a new game called Mage Arcane Warfare. So pretty much like Chivalry, but with magic, they said, coming in fall of 2016. I apologize if I'm moving very quickly. I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep, and I have to work yet tonight, as well as watch the Sony thing, so and this is the third time I've had to record this due to editing things. So I apologize if I'm going too quickly. I will try and keep that in mind as I talk, but most of these things either just me compiling what happened today. But from there, I had to leave the AMD stream because they cut out. Or I don't mean they cut out. They misjudged their time, and Ubisoft was starting at the same time, so I had to make the conscious decision to go to the Ubisoft conference as well. So the things I have written down for AMD after that are just things that I kind of glanced over and saw that they were talking about. They had something of Mages of Australia, something like that, coming out in 2017. Warframe, is getting a new game mode that looked a lot like Griffball from Halo, and they showed some Deus Ex. That's what I have. From there, we move on to Ubisoft, who, like I said, started, and they started off with a weird Just Dance 2017 kind of thing, and they announced that Just Dance 2017 will be across all platforms. Then from there, they moved on to Wildlands, focusing pretty heavily on Wildlands. solo and co-op gameplay. They showed a quote-unquote in-game footage of the game. They announced that it's the largest open world by Ubisoft. And I say in-game footage, quote-unquote, because I do not believe Ubisoft anymore when they say this is in-game footage. All their in-game footage is bullshit. It is all pre-rendered. And this was a very good example of it because their in-game footage of gameplay, the voice actors were definitely dubbed over. They were definitely actors reading off a script over footage of it. And as we all know, Ubisoft is notorious for their gameplay trailers looking a lot better than the actual final project. Every company does that. Don't get me wrong. I understand. Every company has to do that. But they are the worst at it. As far as that goes. But the gameplay looked very good. It looked very Division-y, but in an open world setting, just like the Division, but like in Mexico. I believe it's in Bolivia, if I remember right. Very good, though. It looked very nice. It comes March 7th, 2017. Then from there, they went on to one of the best trailer openings I've ever seen. It was brought to you by Frostbite or Snowdrop, so it was very cinematic, very amazing. And it was South Park Stick of Truth sequel, Fractured Butthole. Fractured B-U-T hole. Very good, very, it's a superhero take as opposed to the last one, which was a more fantasy take. This one was a superhero where you kind of start new because the gang has switched games and they are no longer playing the Stick of Truth. They are moving to the superhero thing, so you start off as a douchebag again, and you have to create your own Cartman creates your own backstory for you, and you pick your hero, and it's kind of a play on the Civil War aspect of the superhero genre. From there, they moved on to the Division. The Division, they talked about Underground is coming June 28th for Xbox and PC, and April 8th for PlayStation. And then they also touched on the Underground. They did a gameplay trailer for it. No, they did. Underground, they did not do a gameplay trailer for. The gameplay trailer was for Survival, the next DLC after Underground, or content, whatever you want to call it. And it was some more pre-rendered acting bullshit. This one was even worse. This one wasn't even in-game footage, I don't think, because the enemies died with one shot, which is total bullshit if you've ever played The Division. From there, they moved on to a VR game called Eagle Flight, which looked like what many people's wet dreams of Harry Potter would look like if it was in VR, but you're flying around on eagles instead of an actual good Harry Potter game. From there, they moved on to another VR game called Star Trek Bridge Crew, which was very interesting because it's a different take on Star Trek. It is, you play as a crew member that you sit at a council and you hit buttons according to what the captain tells you. I believe it's only 4 people, but they had Mr. LeVar Burton and 3 other actors from Star Trek that I don't know. I know LeVar Burton from his, obviously, Reading Rainbow and then his many philanthropy work. So it was very awesome to see him. He was actually there at E3 and came out and talked about it and how much he liked it, and it was great seeing him, as always. From there, they hit pretty heavily hard on For Honor, which has taken a completely different turn than what it was last year, it seems. It looked visually awesome from the opening gameplay trailer. Something about like a god of apocalypse is causing these 3 fractions to be at war with each other. Is the whole thing behind it. And Mr. Jason Vanderberg, the lead developer, came out and showed off some Viking gameplay, but it has completely changed from what I remember it last year. This year, it looked very Batman, where you just jump from person to person, hitting them with your axe. It comes out Valentine's Day, 2/14/17, which is a very interesting release date. But it seems like it has taken a weird turn and not for the better. Its gameplay mechanics for battle was very interesting with like a rock paper scissors concept, but it definitely seems to have taken a weird turn that I'm not the biggest fan of. From there, they moved on to announcing the sequel to Grow Up. They didn't really talk too much about it, which was very unfortunate, but you now can go on an entire planet instead of just a segment of it going all the way to the moon. Moving swiftly on from there, they moved on to the creative development team from Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft in general, which had a very weird intro WWE style with smoke and fog and fiery explosions. And they came out and showed off a new. It was very confusing. Their whole spiel for a game called Trials of the Blood Dragons, which looks like an '80s kind of Trackmania 2D driving thing. It was all very confusing. I was very confused throughout the whole thing. From there, they moved on to talking about the Assassin's Creed movie. Yep, that's all the time we have for the Assassin's Creed movie. Watch Dogs 2 they talked about, and Watch Dogs 2 is a game that I am very weary about. So I am very skewed when I talk about it because Watch Dogs 1 was a big burn on me, and so I take Watch Dogs 2 as a similar counterpart to it. But it looked very nice, but once again, it's pre-rendered bullshit. But it looked very nice, and you're working for DedSec, another political group, or trying to bring down a political group, hackers and all that, in the Los Angeles Bay Area. If you've been awake following game trailer, it's been out for about a week. They've talked about it. The leak came out, and they even touched on that. They even said something about the leak. From there, they had the developer come out and announce that they're working on a Watch Dogs movie, because Ubisoft is now a movie company as well. From there, they moved on to their big announcement, their big kind of development called Steep, a open world sports game. Let that just sit in for a second. Open world sports game, which is kind of along the same line as I think of The Crew, where you hear that concept and you're like, oh man, why hasn't anyone done this before? This is a great idea. But it'll be interesting to see how it's executed. But I was very excited, when you hear that, because you think of skiing down a mountain, and then you get to the city and you're skateboarding and bicycling across the island or whatever, and then you go out in the ocean and you're surfing. But it is purely in the Alps. No, yes, the Alps. Wherever the Matterhorn is. They talked about the Matterhorn. And you're only skiing, snowboarding, paragliding, and wingsuiting. But it still looked very good, very open world, very The Crew kind of feeling. That'll be coming out in December. It is also Ubisoft's 30th year, so happy birthday to Ubisoft. And that's was kind of their big thing. Microsoft conference, if I didn't touch on that. These are just random things I was able to piece together because, like I said, I didn't get to see it. They announced Dead Rising 4 will be coming out in December. That'll be very interesting. State of Decay 2 was announced, coming in 2017. That's awesome. Xbox Slims are now starting at $299. I don't know when those hit the market, but they announced it. Forza Horizon 3 will be on PC as well as Xbox, which is interesting because that's kind of their niche game that will now be open to PC as well. Stardew Valley is going to also be coming to consoles as well. That's a game I've been wanting to get into, so I really don't have any opinions on that, but it looks very good. Final Fantasy 15, I guess there was some first gameplay of that. They announced a new game called Sea of Thieves, which is a very pirate, sorry, I dropped my phone and hit the mouse. Pirate adventure game with a very cartoony art style will be on Xbox and PC. As well as this isn't from the Microsoft conference, but this is from Polygon. They did an interview with Skyrim and Bethesda's own Mr. Todd Howard, who announced that Skyrim Elder Scrolls 6 is in development, but in his own words, it is far, far off because they have to work a long ways on it, and he didn't give any more information about story or anything, but it is in development, so that's very interesting. But yeah, guys, that is it for the second day of E3. This will probably be the last coverage I have of E3. I'll probably just watch the Sony and the Nintendo things, and Nintendo I probably won't even give a shit about. But Sony I'll try and keep an eye on, and I will just bring the information I gather to the Sunday news channel, or Sunday news series on Sunday, and let you guys know what I have found out. So as always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave them down in the box, like and subscribe. I understand that the audio is probably wonky. I have a new mic in the mail on the way to get here. It's just a matter of getting here. I apologize for that sincerely. Sorry there's not any gameplay footage behind it. This is more of a podcast, but I didn't have any stock footage on hand. So as always, have a great one.